Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de the latest game that I've been obsessing about, and I'm fairly positive it doesn't get enough love, right? And frankly, even if it did, I'd still like to gush about it. And that is the wuxia jrpg slash crpg slash straight up RPG that it is. Wandering Sword. Ooh, I love it. Hey, XenPuck here. Yeah, I'm kind of old at this point. It's hard to admit, but with a few decades of life experience under my belt, occasionally I'm reminded of entire genres of art that I enjoyed at some point in my life, but have now completely forgotten about, right? That's right. Thanks to my new Steam Deck that finally lets me play indie games that's not big enough to make it onto the home consoles, I've had the pleasure of playing this indie darling of a game from, I think, last year called Wandering Sword. The game is a fairly standard RPG that's kind of in that 2.5D pixel art style, made famous by games like Octopath Traveler and such. I mean, I almost called it a JRPG because that's a genre that got me into RPGs in general, and none of that D&D type of games, right? But games like Final Fantasy, at least in the single digits, all the way to games like Octopath Traveler, right? However, JRPGs stand for Japanese RPGs. And this Wandering Sword game, well, I'd really call it the most Chinese of all games I've ever played. I mean, that's not really saying too much since I'm not really in the Chinese gaming scene generally. But this game, there are just so much of it that reminds me of the wuxia-style pulp fiction novels that dominated a few years of my tweenage age, right? So yeah, the whole game shook me because it reminded me of a period of my life when my English was barely there and I'd lose myself in the fantastical world of martial artists, righting wrongs, and kicking butt. I'm not even talking about all the, fun kung fu movies. I'm talking about straight up reading those novels, okay? Something I haven't done in quite a while as an adult, I'm afraid to say, right? Anyway, I am so excited to share some of my thoughts, so I will stop ranting on this intro now, okay? If you enjoy some random rants from a dude with clearly no production skills, like, subscribe, share, comment, or whatever, okay? I'll be great regardless because I just do these for funsies. Hit that bell icon. I don't even know what that is, but people who watch YouTube surely knows better than me, right? So to start off, because I'm a cynic, I gotta get my few complaints about the game out of the way, right? In no particular order these are, okay? Like font size in the item description is just way too small. I find it mildly amusing. This is a game of pixel art proportions. All the characters are like super deformed, but you really have to squint to look at the item descriptions, seriously. That's the reason I think this game is not great to play on the Steam Deck in portable mode, right? I actually docked mine and played on a TV. This is helpful, but honestly I still had to squint a bit. I wish there was some kind of zooming option, okay? Next minor complaint is just that I wish there were more variations in animation between all the different styles of kung fu and weapon arts. As it stands, the biggest indicator of what moves are happening are just different lighting and kind of explosion effects, which are cool, but in a game that's heavily focused on, melee combat, right? It would be nice to see some awesome kung fu moves, right? It would have been nice to be able to distinguish between Shaolin and Wudang style, just visually speaking. I mean, I'd have been fine if the new animations are saved for only the more special, more powerful moves, but as it stands, I can barely tell what weapon types my party's using visually, much less what style of move in each weapon type, right? Okay, and the last nitpick though is that even though there are 5 different main weapon types, that's fist, sword, saber, staff, and hidden weapons, you do meet characters who use variations on those types, such as spear as a variation of staff, or firearms as a variation of hidden weapons. It would have been nice to see visual adaptations, not animation, but just what your character is actually holding. Otherwise, it just feels weird to watch a beloved character who's still swinging a spear even though I have a staff equipped, But I get it. There's probably budget constraints or whatever. Oh well. Okay, now let's get to the things that I loved, right? I love the feeling of progression in this game, okay? It doesn't handhold you too much. I mean, I feel like I had access to 50% of the world map almost immediately after you get out of the first town. Boy, did it feel extremely dangerous in the beginning, right? I felt like any random dungeon had a 50% chance of just outright killing me, just a regular enemies. I guess it'd be nice to have some sort of suggested level indicator before each dungeon, but honestly, I like the feeling of like caution that you had to put into, right? Though, eventually after much grinding, that some people hate, but I don't, my protagonist can now pretty much solo, you know, every named characters that I found on auto. The feeling of being called a supreme or unrivaled in terms of power, it really does feel that way, right? Though I do recall, even after I've gotten these grindy parts done, some random mini-boss in an optional area just killed me, right? My so-called OP main characters. That humbled me real quick. Just like the world of Kung Fu, right? You know, there's always someone better, yeah? Oh, speaking of the feeling of the wuxia genre, by the way, I have to say the storyline in this game is just filled with cliches of what I recall from this type of novel, right? I actually mean this statement as a positive, because maybe it's because I've been away from the wuxia genre for so long, but playing through the game so far, I mean, I'm not quite done. I think I'm about 80% through it, so it's a good majority, right? There's just so much nostalgia for me invoked by my character's interaction with the game world, right? From the protagonist's attitude towards helping the helpless to the brutal deaths of some side characters, all the way to the fact that the game lets you to choose to jump off a cliff if you want, right? I mean, that last bit, I was like, oh wait, I can jump? Sure. It'll give me something good, right? Nope, jumped off a cliff and got a game over screen. I just died. I had to look it up to find out that I needed some better stats before trying that leap again, and it does in fact give you some cool rewards. This whole jumping off the cliff thing is totally unexpected, but really straight out of one of the most famous wuxia stories that I recall, right? There's just tons of references like this in the game. I absolutely love these. Now, finally, since I've ranted about my peeves and loves, but what is this game, who is this game actually good for? I mean, I'm afraid to say it, it's really for any JRPG fan that want to try something different. I mean, obviously, if you're already into Kung Fu movies or like the wuxia genre, you'll have a great time. The more background wuxia information you have, the more familiar the game will feel, right? I'd say the same about just general Chinese culture, right? You know how I can complain about the font size and the item description previously. Honestly, I only said that because I actually wanted to read all the item descriptions, right? Because there's so much junk in the game that all had culturally significant meanings. So I guess this is a real Chinese-styled JRPG, right? But it is still a JRPG at heart in the sense that the choices you make won't break too much of the main plot, unlike, let's say, compared to, say, Baldur's Gate type of games, right? Obviously, it goes without saying that a love of pixel art is probably necessary, right? I've personally never cared about next-gen graphics, so this is a moot point for me. I just like a good grind that results in a feeling that my work has paid off, right? I generally say this game succeeds, you know, wonderfully. So, in conclusion, should you buy this game? I'd hope so if you know me, right? I mean, it has tons of great reviews on Steam, but I'm assuming that's because there's tons of actual Chinese players from that country writing these reviews, right? I'm just saying anyone who likes JRPGs could do worse than giving this a game a try, right? I mean, look, I came into the game knowing what to expect, and I'm obviously more than a bit biased because of the cultural parallels. And it's definitely not perfect, but the parts that it does well, the parts that it wants to accomplish, which is let you roleplay as a wandering hero in a fantastic world of qigong and swordplay, that it accomplishes easily and well. So give it a try, because I'd love to nerd out about this kind of stuff with the world. Okay, cheers, à la prochaine.